for most people, it happens very innocently, and they're not asking themselves the question, is this actually what I want? And most people, they build their life around their business rather than building their business around their life.
I just think it's super duper important for people to ask this question of, is this really what I want? And am I building the thing that's going to give me that freedom?
Our mind will generalize things so that they're not actionable, because action takes energy, right? So if I get really specific about something, my brain goes, okay, this is real. Now I've got to take action, and the action that's required is going to require energy. It's going to require attention, some sacrifice, like all of that sort of stuff. So the survival brain says, no, don't get specific, because then we're going to take action on it. So my part of my work very in the beginning is get specific. Get very clear on what it is that you actually want, and then naturally your brain is going to want to work backwards to actually make that happen.
On today's episode, we talk about what happens when the business that you've built starts costing you the life you thought you were building it for. We also cover how to get brutally honest about the gap between what you say matters and what your calendar and bank account reveal. And then the simple exercise that can help you build a business that actually serves your real life, not one that just looks good online. What's up, my friend? Hey, welcome to the Grow Your Video Business podcast, where we're all about helping you build a thriving, profitable video business without burning out. I'm your host, Ryan Coral, with my new glasses. You guys, I'm being so vulnerable right now. My wife hasn't even seen these. I ordered these on the internet without her approving. She's in Uganda, and you know what am I gonna do? What's a guy supposed to do? I just want to see. I can't believe how inexpensive these were. I'm not even gonna get into that. I'm here to help you grow your video business. I am pumped to bring back my friend and former guest, Chad Brown. I think he was on like 250, maybe 350 episodes ago, or maybe more than that. His journey from being a burned out filmmaker to a sought after business coach is raw, it's powerful, and it's way too relatable. And in this episode, we go deep on identity, which is one of my favorite topics. We talk about family, another one of my favorite topics, freedom, another one of my favorite topics, and what it means to build something on purpose. If you have been doing this work for any length of time, it's really easy to forget your why. It's easy to get lost in the weeds of all the client works, the demands, and remember, what the heck, what do I love about this? Because it feels like I don't love anything right now. And if you resonate with that at all, welcome. This episode is for you. Before we dive in, if you want a head start on building a video business that works for you and not the other way around, then grab my free video blueprint starter kit. This thing is packed with tools to help you clarify your message, to be able to pitch to clients smarter and start creating more meaningful strategic content, and to get paid for this work before you ever hit record. You can grab this over at studiosherpas.com/blueprints, or just click the link in the show notes. With that, let's roll the tape and get into it. What's up, friend? Hey, welcome to another exciting episode of the show. I'm pumped to have my friend Chad Brown, who's also a former guest of the show. He's a business coach, consultant. He's one of my favorite, like when I think about like back in the day when I was learning all about the filmmaking and all the things, Chad, his team, the work that they did, he was definitely one of my inspirations. Made gorgeous work, great storyteller, and continues to be, but is now, I think, having a bigger impact with the people that he's coaching and helping along the way in business and all that stuff. So super excited to have you back. Welcome back, Chad.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm excited to be here. The show has a new name. I was back on when it was Sherpas.
Yeah,
and that was
I think
fun.
Matt did your interview.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
too. So this is
Yeah.
just so awkward right now.
Oh, shoot. I won't compare you two. I promise I won't compare you two. I did thoroughly enjoy the story that you guys just told on the podcast, though.
Oh my gosh, was that so good?
We don't have any good stories like that together because we just aren't that close. But man, we could make one up.
Oh man, I've watched that video multiple times since posting it. Just laughing at both of us, cracking up. That was a good time. Those were the days, man. Those are some fun times growing up as filmmakers. What would you say?
Yeah.
You transitioned out of full-time filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
What was the impetus like for you? What changed in your life to say, you know what, I want to do something different?
Well, I mean, it really stemmed from figuring out what I was doing that wasn't working in my own film business. And
yeah,
that was quite a journey. We can go into any of that. I'm an open book for that, whatever questions you have, or if you want to dive into that. But ultimately, we had a business that we were running very poorly financially, and on the outside, it was super successful. We were working for big brands, working all the time, doing really cool stuff. Of course, posting it online, speaking at all the conferences, doing all that stuff. And I was a terrible leader for our team, making huge mistakes, turning people over, burning people out. My relationship with my family was suffering significantly. And realized that, I had allowed the business to take over my life. And I wasn't proud of the dad that I had become. I wasn't proud of the husband that I had become, but I was doing it all under the lie that I was doing it for them.
Yeah.
Right. And so I got real serious about how does this thing how does it continue to be successful financially and not ruin me? And that took me down a whole road of hiring a business coach who I now work with, and I'm on his team. And that process to me, man, was so transformational.
Yeah.
Not just in the business. I mean, the business was a byproduct of that transformation as a human being, as a husband, as a dad. The things that I said were most important to me, but I was neglecting the most. That transformation was so huge that for me, the only way I know how to describe it is that it didn't feel like I could do anything else but pass it along, help others do the same, because I saw the same patterns happening over and over again with my peers and the people that were around me. At the time, we had an educational arm of our business called CineSchool. It was mostly focused on technique and style and all of that sort of stuff. And I was realizing that most of the people who were coming through CineSchool were experiencing almost exactly the same thing. As soon as they got a little bit of success, everything got put to the wayside.
Yeah.
And so to me, I said, well, I'm going to do both, right? I'm going to run Shade Tree and I'm going to help other filmmakers go through the transformation that I've gone through. And then I just loved it so much. It just, I feel like it called me rather than me making that decision of like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go over here and do this. And the clientele grew and the experience was unbelievable and helping people. I don't know. That's why I'm here now.
Yeah, dude, I love that. Thank you for sharing all of that. It's like, I remember at church a few years ago, they played a video and I think it was called like Insta Family. And it was just this whole idea of like, oh, we make everything look pretty. And it's like so cliche now. We're like, yeah, like that's the whole thing. Filter, make everybody see the version of us that we want them to see. And everything on the inside could just be being destroyed.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's why I do this work. Right. And I call it work. It does not feel like work most of the time. I've got 5 podcast interviews today. And I just told you, I'm like, oh my gosh, I took so many notes. The first 2, I better take some notes. You better say some smart things. So I write those down. I'm just kidding. But to think that this show, like the platform that I have, could help somebody look in and say, is this really the life that I'm trying to build, and the business, is this really the business that I want? And Am I, I just watched a show, and the dad is like, just working his tail off to make more and more money. And the wife is like, we don't need the money. We need you.
Yeah.
And I know for so many people that it just resonates, because we want to. I think a lot of us, when we start this business, it's like, yeah, I want to create freedom and make my own hours. And then there's that meme that's like, yeah, I quit my 9 to 5 and started my own business, and now I work, 24/7. It's like, yeah, like it feels like, or it can become that, but man, that is not what we set out to be. Those are not the kind of husbands or spouses or dads that we want to be. What would you say is like the an identifier? I don't know if that's the right word, but for the person that listens to this and is like, yeah, I don't think, I'm still young. Maybe I'm newly married, and maybe we have a newborn, but I've got to put in the work, and I've got to put in the extra time. What's a red flag or something for that person to take note of as they are pushing forward?
Well, I mean, you said it perfectly, is asking yourself the question, is this actually what I want? Is this
Yeah.
fulfilling me? Is this the life that and most of us, I think it's so innocent in the beginning, at least it was for
Yeah,
me. And I
totally.
find this with a lot of people, is that you fall, I felt, I'll put it on me, and maybe people will relate. I fell in love with storytelling. I really did. The fact that I could pick up this camera and go shoot some things that maybe somebody or most people wouldn't have even seen with their eye, and then I can tell that story and make them feel something from it. That was intoxicating.
Yeah.
Still is intoxicating.
Yeah.
And so it starts innocently, and it's like, I'm doing whatever I need to do in order to tell stories with a camera. Like, that was my goal. And then, you start getting paid some pretty good money for it. And you're like, oh, wow, this could actually be a thing. Maybe I'm not crazy. And then, you start to get some recognition, maybe by industries or other people in the video industry. And that can be really intoxicating and blinding. And so it happens, from my perspective, for most people, it happens very innocently, and they're not asking themselves the question, is this actually what I want?
Yeah.
And most people, they build their life around their business rather than building their business around their life. And I know that's a cliche. I get it. Lots of people say that, but it's honestly the truth. You can do that. People build all types of businesses. It doesn't have to look a single way. So if your answer to that question is no, this isn't what I want, but you think you have to do it now to create something for later, you're lying. Sorry, you just are. Now, I'm not going to say there aren't sacrifices that are made.
Right.
There are sacrifices that are made.
Yeah.
In order to build, but maybe they don't have to look the way you think they need to look. And maybe now's the time, not in the future. What I've found for myself is that typically when I tell myself it's going to change in the future, it doesn't. It just gets worse.
Yeah, dude, that's really powerful. What's an example of a sacrifice that somebody thinks that they need to make, that they might find out later? And it's like, no, actually, that's not something that you need to sacrifice.
Well, for me, it looked like, oh, I don't need to go to this. I have somebody who wants to book me and pay me money. So I'm going to not go to the soccer game. I'm going to miss the 11th birthday party or the 5th birthday party or whatever, because this client's paying me and it's an event and it's only happening on these days. And look, how could we turn down this amount of money for the thing that I love to do? I'm just speaking personally. These are decisions that I made in my life, and I'll never get those back.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have regret because those huge lessons learned, and I've reconciled with my kids and my wife, continue to reconcile with my kids and my wife when I make mistakes. But that's the type of thinking that I think here's how it went for me. When I hired my coach, we hired our business coach, we didn't even know what a business coach was at the time. Like, this was 2010, 10, I think.
Oh man.
And
Yeah.
I had never even heard of a business coach. And I thought he was going to come in and like tell us, oh, like this system over here and do this thing and send these emails and, all of that sort of stuff. I was like, oh, great. He's going to help us turn this thing around. And the first call, I made a statement. I just said, I'm a family man. And he just looked at me and said, you're lying to yourself. You're lying. Like, you may like the idea of being a family man, but look at the results that you have in your life right now.
Yeah.
The results are the truth. The story you tell, unfortunately, at this moment is a lie. No problem. You can change that. But the first step is coming to that point of like, okay, if I say one thing's important, but my calendar and my bank account say something different, then I'm living a lie. And until those two things align, it's going to be despair.
Man, that's certainly someone listening is like, oh, how does he know my story?
Hopefully.
I feel like for me, I mean, there are parts of that ring true. I know when I started my business, Andrea and I were newly married, so we didn't really have a rhythm. She was in school. I was working at the college, and then, basically just transitioned into just working from home. And so we didn't have to make a lot. We didn't have kids. And it wasn't until we started having kids that, she's like, man, I wish you were home more. And I set out to build this business with the dream of like, okay, one day, like, like I'm going to, if I don't have to work 40 hours, I don't want to. If I don't have to travel, I'm not going to. And, I just remember sitting in, we had a marriage therapist, and we're sitting in her office one day, and Andrea's just complaining as wives do. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, but she's, it was really like her heart was hurting. She's like, where's the husband that I married? And I want to be present. And in my defense, I said, hey, I just want you to, and this is not, so don't listen to me saying this story because there's a lot more to this story. But the 2 or 3 years of like building this business, we had our firstborn, and I think we were getting ready we weren't getting ready to have our second yet, but I was working less. I hired a full-time employee, I think year 3 or something. And then I hired somebody else year 4. And, so I was delegating and handing things off like very early on. I hired contractors like within like 6 months of me doing this work. And so I just knew in my mind, I'm like, this is what I want to build. I grew up, my parents got divorced when I was 12. My dad worked midnights. We lived with my dad. I saw my mom every other weekend, and I barely saw my dad just because he wasn't around. I played sports. My dad didn't come to nearly as many events that I wanted. My mom came when she could. So for me, I grew up with this, like, I'm never getting divorced, and I'm going to be present for my kids. So this was my story, and this was my drive. So to Andrew's point, I mean, she's like, what is it? Love language of being in presence, being together.
Yeah.
So she just wanted me to always be there, and I'm like, well, listen, I've got a business to run, so I can't always be home. And, as we worked through therapy and I just kind of laid out, like, look how much less I'm working now. My goal is a year from now to be working this much less. And when I say less, I mean, like, I was traveling. Sometimes I'd be gone the whole weekend, or sometimes I'd have a wedding on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then I'd go back to work on Monday. And then eventually I'm like, I want a team that goes out and does, and eventually I had a team that was going out and doing the events, and I wasn't doing them. And I didn't miss, a 10-year-old birthday party. Those were things that I'm like, I'm definitely not doing that, because my wife will, it just will not end well. And yeah, but fortunately I had that baggage or that story that really helped me stay the course to say, I'm not missing these things. These are the most important things for me. Now, certainly I should bring her in on an episode and have her actually share the real story. And she's going to have her perspective, but I think she would say today, like, oh yeah, like you're here, you're present, you've been present, you haven't missed the things. And sure, I want more time with you. And there's times where you go out to a networking thing or whatever, but overall, like, yeah, you've done a great job. Yeah. I'm feeling better about myself.
You're just salting my wounds. I'm going to go.
No, but
I'm making a therapy appointment right now.
but I just think it's important to address, like, each of us have our own different story and motivators.
Yeah.
For me, that I think protected me. That really protected our marriage and my desire to be present for my kids and to be involved in their activities and coach and, you know, all of that stuff. But everybody has a different story and different things that they believe that aren't true.
That's right.
And certainly we can list out like plenty of my downfalls and things that I have not done well, but I just think it's super duper important for people to ask this question of, is this really what I want? And am I building the thing that's going to give me that freedom? So when you have people, when you're asking that question of people, like what comes up, and then how does somebody that says like, well, no, I am a family man, or no, this business doesn't control my life or whatever. But the reality is like, that's not true. Like what's a next step for somebody?
Well, I mean, recognition, awareness, admittance, confession is the first.
Yeah.
If you want something to change. If you don't want anything to change,
yeah,
cool, do your thing. Like there's no shame, there's no shade thrown from my corner. If you want to work every day of your life, go for it. There are prices you'll pay. But you know, there are prices I pay for the life that I want to live and how I've built my business around it, right? So there is trade-offs in every direction, but the first step is actually get clear about what you want specifically. This is a process. So I run an accelerator for filmmakers. I've done a ton of one-to-one work with filmmakers, also tons of other leaders, business owners in other industries. The very first thing that we do is get clear on what they actually want specifically. Not working less is not a thing. Like that's just a generalization. How much do you want to work? When do you want to work? All of those specific questions. And what's always in the beginning, it was surprising to me. I don't know why it was surprising to me, because that's my story too. But I'm no longer surprised that almost every single person that I sit down, when we first sit down, they don't know what they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have some idolization of this thing that society has told them that that's what they're supposed to have or do or blah, 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 blah. But they don't specifically know for themselves. So, you know, one of the things is like, I hear it all the time. I haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. Okay. What do you want? I want to go on vacation with my family. Really? Where do you want to go? When do you want to do it? How long do you want it to be? What's your budget? All of that. And what happens is it's a psychological principle that our mind will generalize things so that they're not actionable, because action takes energy, right? So if I get really specific about something, my brain goes, okay, this is real. Now I've got to take action, and the action that's required is going to require energy. It's going to require attention, some sacrifice, like all of that sort of stuff. So the survival brain says, no, don't get specific, because then we're going to take action on it. And so part of my work very in the beginning is get specific. Get very clear on what it is that you actually want, and then you're going to work, and then naturally your brain is going to want to work backwards to actually make that happen. So when I finish with a client, maybe 12 or 24 months later, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we did it." Like it's so close to what we said we were going to create. And their minds are blown, but it's all comes back to that specificity, getting clear. And of course, things are going to change and shift and blah, 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 blah. Don't use that as an excuse to not set a vision, a very clear and specific vision.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I mean, it's super powerful. It's easy. I think some people like their eyes are glazing or their ears are glazing over, because they're like, I know what I want. It's not until you sit down with pen and paper or somebody in your face asking you that question, and then like, okay, well, why that? Or like, really? Because I mean, you just said that, but you haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. So like, is that really what you want? And, and if so, like, what can you do about it? It's like, okay. So no, gosh, I got to answer these hard questions, but to sit with, you know, sometimes the poor decisions that you've made, so that you change, so that you do something different. Because if that's what you want, if you want something different, somebody just shared that if you do a thing and you don't reflect on it, you'll just keep moving forward. There's really nothing to learn. Like, you might have sat in an amazing session, but if you don't take any time afterward, you don't have to take notes necessarily, but notes help. But to really think through, like, what really stuck out there and what was helpful, and like, what might I change? And I asked that question at the end of the show, like, hey, what's one item that you might start doing or stop doing, or anything that stood out, to just try to activate those things. But when we don't take that time to sit down and be quiet and to just think, like, what, is this really what I want? Is this what I'm trying? Is this what I'm building? I mean, I've been, I've got a couple of coaches right now in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm asking the question. I texted the mastermind that's full of filmmakers. I texted them a few weeks ago. This is just part of my exercise as I'm reflecting and thinking, like, what is it that I want? Is this what I want? And I just said to them, I said, hey, if I went all in on education and, hanging out with filmmakers and coaching and masterminding and all that stuff, if I did that and I didn't run my video production business anymore, like, would you still, like, want to learn from me, or would you prefer working with somebody that, has a foot in the space? And it was a resounding, and I was surprised, but it was a resounding, like, no, dude, like, you've cultivated this incredible community and you've got 20 years of running this business and stuff. But there's part of me that's like, yeah, but when you go all in on teaching, it means you've given up on the thing, and like, and I there's some saying about, people who teach don't know, or whatever that is. And I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of becoming irrelevant. But to hear everybody in my mastermind who knows me super well, and we've spent a lot of time together in person and virtually and all that stuff, for them to all say, like, we would still be in this mastermind if you didn't have video production. That, for me, I'm not this isn't a formal announcement of me shutting down my business, but I was just, like, trying to entertain, like, what could that look like? What could that world look like? And those are some of the hard questions or interesting questions that I'm thinking about and reflecting on. But never would I have asked that question. I wouldn't have had the energy to ask that question, because I'm like, gosh, I don't even want to go down that. And then if people are like, well, no, and then I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's kind of what I thought. So I'll just keep running my production company and, doing some coaching and masterminding over here.
Yeah. The exercise that I use is the prices versus benefits exercise. So if I'm looking at something and I want to change something, and it's this reflective process, right? So if I want to change something in my life, say I'm working too much, or I'm not present with my family, or whatever, to have an honest conversation with myself and sit down and say, okay, what are all of the benefits that I get from working too much? What do I get? I get reinforcement of I'm a provider. I get attention from the people that I provide services for. I go down that list, and I'm very honest with myself about what I get out of that thing that's not working. Because human behavior says, if it's not working, we won't do it. If it's not working for something, we won't do it. Like, if we're not getting a benefit out of it, we will stop doing it. So it may not be the benefit you're aware of, or it may not be the benefit that you actually aspire to, but you're still getting something out of it. That's why you repeat the behavior. We're animals. Yeah. We do that. And so I list out all the benefits that I'm getting from it. And the ones that hurt the most are the ones that have the greatest impact, right? Like, when I was traveling so much and we were speaking from stages and it was go, 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 and I was gone, maybe more than 300 days out of the year, I came to the realization that that was feeding my ego. Yeah. That was the greatest impact. That was the greatest benefit I got, is feeling like I belonged, feeling like people looked up to me and respected me, and anyway, all of that stuff that feeds the ego. And then I go to the prices list. What are all the prices that I'm paying for doing this thing that is not working? And being very honest, at that time, I had to list the price that my marriage was not going to work for very much longer if I kept doing this. My health was not going to hold up. My team was not going to hold up. So ultimately my business would not hold up, or maybe, how it looked at the time. So anyway, all, benefits and prices. And that's the meditative practice that I do on reflection. When you talked about reflection, is so powerful because I can then look at an honest list of those things and say, okay, I'm willing to give up those benefits to no longer pay those prices.
Dude. Oh man, I wish we had, like an hour and a half more. There's so much in here. I want people to be able to connect with you. Obviously, like this is, so much of the audience that I'm serving are people that you can help as well. So what are some good ways for people to reach out if any of this, your perspective resonates and they might want to have a conversation? What does that look like?
Yeah. The work I do with filmmakers is helping them build a scalable business. So what that looks like is creating an MVP. I call it an MVP. It's the most valuable product. Actually formulating a product that you offer that solves a problem for a specific niche. It's a really transformative process to go from thinking about being a video guy or a video gal to providing a product that solves a problem. And I love that. I love that process. It's not the only way to scale your business, but it is a very powerful way to scale your business. So I have a website that outlines all of that where people can grab a masterclass for themselves if they want to. It's called the Scaling Masterclass. Then go to founder-freedom.com is my website. Go there. You can get in contact me there or email me, chad@chadlbrown.com. I don't do much on the socials anymore intentionally, and have just found that to be a huge benefit in my life. But so anyway, email me. Go to my website.
Love that. Yeah, check that out. What's thinking about like, okay, how do you want to leave us today? Like, what's a thought or a challenge or an encouragement that you might have for us?
I think it'll be a callback just to your business doesn't have to look any one way. And there's a lot of information out there telling you that it needs to look a specific way to be successful or whatever. And if you're willing to ask the question, what if this isn't the way? What if this isn't the right way for me? Then that's the gateway to opening up new possibilities. That's the gateway to opening up curiosity rather than knowing how it has to be. So just an invitation to go back to the drawing board. If you would change anything, just start with one thing. If there's one thing that you would change about your business right now, if you could, I know you got all the stories about why you can't, no problem. Suspend those for just a moment. If I could change this one thing, what would it be? And that will open up so many possibilities and conversations and resources that you never even knew existed.
That's good. One of the questions that was given to me during a coaching session recently was like, if Tell Studios burned to the ground tomorrow, what would you do? And so that's the opportunity to think through, like, what would I do? Would I rebuild it the same? Would I do this one thing differently? And then I just want to say yes to everything you said and take that one step further where you look at me or you look at somebody else, how they built their studio. And just because I'm a voice that's in your ear and you see like, oh, Ryan's got this cool studio. And it's like, yeah, that's what I want. Be careful what you wish for. And just because somebody else has turned that into something that they find fulfilling, and it doesn't mean that that's going to resonate with you. So asking these questions, reflecting like Chad is mentioning here, such a good exercise. Don't let somebody else's dream be your dream unless it really is your dream. So anyway, Chad, I love this. I love you. I appreciate you just being vulnerable, sharing your story, and I love where you're at and just how you're helping people. So appreciate you coming on today, and just grateful I get to spend this time with you.
Thank you, Ryan. We didn't even get into any of the scaling stuff, so maybe we do it again sometime. But I so appreciate the time and just to be able to connect with you and tell my story in the space. Thank you, man.
Hey, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Grow Your Video Business podcast. If you got something out of today's conversation, do me a favor, share it with a friend or post it on your socials. Tag me at Ryan Coral or at Grow Your Video Business. I'd love to know what resonated with you. If you've got a question or takeaway, drop a comment wherever you're listening or watching this. You can also shoot me a message. I read every single one. And hey, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. We've got more stories, strategies, and behind the scenes insights coming your way to help you build a business that you love. Keep creating, keep sharing your story, and keep showing up. I'm cheering you on. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.